So welcome everyone. My name is Erica Estrada and I am the director of Mano. I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate at University of California, Davis, and I'm in the Department of Food Science and Technology. And before we get started, I will tell you a little bit about the Mano program and some other opportunities that you as a student can take advantage of. But prior to that, I just want to thank all our panelists for volunteering their time to talk to students and ask their questions. So MANO stands for Mentoring, Advising, and Networking Opportunities, and is an initiative that I created to hopefully increase the representation of diverse students in graduate school. And Mano tries to provide support and resources to undergraduate students, especially those from underrepresented communities. At Mano, we believe that every undergraduate, particularly those attending community college, deserve the opportunity to broaden their horizons and discover the endless possibilities that graduate education has to offer. So we have different resources as the Mano program. We provide panel sessions like this one, and we have another panel coming up in the next couple weeks. If you haven't registered for that, you can scan the QR code and then register and participate in one of our raffles that happened during the panel sessions. So this can be you is going to be a panel in which we are going to highlight some of the stories of some successful current PhD and master students, and it hopes to encourage you to pursue graduate school. But in general, the panel sessions try to provide undergraduate students, especially those from community colleges, with an overview of graduate school and the graduate school experience. So today's panels, we are mainly going to discuss financial opportunities for you to attend grad school and how to get paid, and also other opportunities that go beyond the research that happens as a graduate student. We also have a mentor directory, which is a curated collections of biographies of accomplished current and former graduate students. A lot of the people who are part of the mentor are actually on this panel today, so you have to so you have the opportunity to talk to some of this amazing people who have volunteered to become mentors for you. So you can browse our directory and our website, which is coming up soon. Hopefully by the beginning of next week, I will release the website with the mentor directory. And so you will be hearing from me via email. So you can check that out. And lastly, we have a podcast which aims to inspire undergraduate students to pursue their academic dreams and expose them to all of the fields that they can study or that you can study in graduate school. In these conversations, we highlight the journey of current and former grad students and their unique academic and personal professional journeys. Those episodes are also going to be located on our website, and we actually recorded one of the podcasts with Emily here at the first episode. So keep your eye out and visit our website so that you can listen to some of these stories. So all of the resources will be available on our website, like I said, and it will be launched probably next week. If you have any suggestions, whether about the resources, or if you want us to discuss a topic, something that you want to hear from that you want to hear about, don't hesitate and just email us, and we'll be happy to set up a panel so that discusses the topics that you are interested in. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves. Whoever wants to start, just a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself and your program and anything that you want to share with our audience. I can also call. Okay, there you go, Emily. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm happy to get started. So I am a graduate student. I work in the food science department. And my research is focused on the waste that is produced from beer production. So we work on different ways to turn that into products that can be used in the day-to-day, such as water filters. So as a first-generation student, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to speak with you and look forward to this conversation.
Thank you. What about Carlos or Connie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Rubalcaba. I'm a postdoc in the biomedical engineering project. I also did my graduate degree at UC Davis in mechanical engineering. I call myself a biofluid dynamicist, which essentially means I study biological fluids, and fluids could mean anything from air, water, other biological liquids inside your body. Currently, my area of focus is looking at radiation delivery to liver for cancer treatments. Previously, I did inhalation of particulates into the lungs. So think of like dust, COVID, other things that you inhale, and modeling that numerically using computers. I do a lot of simulations, and I'm from Southern California, in case that matters. Born and raised in SoCal, so can answer various questions on different things.
Thank you, Carlos. Connie?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Also a postdoc, so I already completed my grad degree. I'm from SoCal as well. I've jumped around a lot. Like I was in Boston for undergrad. I was in Michigan for my PhD, and I'm here at Davis. My goal was to come back to California, so I'm glad that it worked out for me. And I study the bacteria that live in and on animal bodies. So for my PhD, I studied the gut bacteria communities of wild hyenas. And now I'm working with cats and dogs, which is really fun because I like cats and dogs. And it's really fun to just like get to learn more about their biology and see how their microbiome, which is what we call it, may or may not be like impacting the animal in like beneficial ways. So that's what we're trying to find out.
Awesome. Thank you. What about Reno or Lisi?
Hi, my name is Reno. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate in the Biochem Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology program. And I study the cancer metastases of pancreas. And like many of you here, I was a community college student who transferred to a 4-year university before I started grad school. I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you. Lisi, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lizzie Mojica. I am a 5th year PhD candidate in ecology. And I'll mention this because I didn't know what ecology was until late into my bachelor's degree, but that's the study of how organisms interact with each other and their environments. So I actually did my bachelor's degree in biochemistry in Nevada. And when I learned what ecology was, I was determined to integrate my skills in biochemistry into ecology. And so that's what I've been doing here. And I study how fish respond on a molecular level to salinity stress through a process called epigenetics.
Awesome. Thank you. Shu or Blake, Maribel, Micah?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shu. I'm a postdoc in the Department of Plant Sciences at UC Davis. So I got my bachelor's degree in plant protection in China, and then got my PhD degree in horticulture and agronomy here at UC Davis, and then stayed as a postdoc. I mainly work on plant biochemistry and plant genetics. I'm trying to understand the biosynthetic pathway of plant secondary metabolites, and then use breeding techniques and modern biotechnologies to increase the nutritional value of crops. I'm very happy to have the great opportunity to share my experience with you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, Blake. I'll go first and then you can go, I guess. My name is Mika. I'm a 5th year PhD candidate in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I study limnology, which is the study of inland waters, and particularly I focus on lakes all across California, from Lake Tahoe to Clear Lake. which is just kind of west of the Central Valley and north of San Francisco. My work really focuses on combining field measurements with numerical modeling to predict how lakes will change in the future with land use change, development, and climate change. In particular, I focus on how oxygen dynamics will impact water quality at a macro scale. But if you're interested in learning more about doing applied field work and not just staying in the lab or staying at campus, but really getting to go out into the field, happy to talk more about that for people that are interested.
Thank you. Blake, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hi, I'm Blake Vilches, and I was born in Peru, but grew up in Texas. I started at community college, like many people here, and then I went to New Mexico State University. And now I'm here. I'm a second year PhD student in integrative pathobiology, and I study coronavirus evolution.
Awesome. And I think Maribel, that's
Yeah.
our last panelist.
Yeah, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm a second year neuroscience student here at UC Davis. So I broadly study, I'm trying to understand essentially what is happening in the brain when there's an imbalance of motivation in neuropsychiatric conditions like depression or addiction. And I also am a community college transfer. So I started off at community college and then transferred to Davis for my undergrad and then ended up here for my PhD too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for our panelists. I'm so happy you all are here. And for our students, you can start asking questions on either on the chat or you feel comfortable, feel free to mute yourself. I'll go ahead and get us started with a couple questions. But if at any time any student has a question, feel free to either raise your hand, put it on the chat, and we will address the question as soon as possible. If there is a term that you don't understand, please feel free to raise your hand or put it on the chat and we'll answer that. We understand that a lot of our panelists, including myself, will spend a lot of time in academia and we forget that not everyone is familiar, but there is no shame in that because I probably will not understand some of the terminology that some of the panelists will use because it's so specific for the fields. So don't be shy. Ask as many questions as you want, and we are going to get started with the conversation. So a lot of the times, including myself, I didn't know I could go to grad school without having savings, or I thought I had to have savings, or I thought I had to be rich, or I had to ask my parents had to pay for graduate school. And we know that at least, especially for STEM careers, STEM for science, math, engineering, technology careers, a lot of the times they pay you to go to school. So I want to discuss this. How do you pay for grad school, and how do you support yourself during this, like either 2-year master or 4 to 6 years as a PhD or as a postdoc? Maybe I would like to hear about some of the TA experiences. How do you pay for grad school, and how do you need to be rich to go to grad school?
I can jump in and someone else can piggyback off of me. But so I, like Erica, was in that situation where I thought that I could not attend grad school because I didn't have the financial means to do so. But I was lucky enough to have a few mentors that just informed me otherwise of that. So the way that I afford grad school is through particularly TAing in my experience. So this means that I work as a teaching assistant to a professor to help teach a specific class. So for me, that often looks like the brewing practical class, which is actually a really fun experience. So I think that there can be kind of a fear of TAing, but in my particular experience, it's been a really wonderful opportunity to both learn for myself and to learn that I enjoy teaching. But the way that the payment works is that the school will pay me both a stipend, so living expenses for rent, etc. But it also pays for my tuition, so I don't have to pay anything out of pocket.
Awesome, thank you. And Lizzie, do you have anything to add to that? Anyone can tell, like, have you had TA before? Do you want to tell us about your teaching experience and your teaching positions?
Yeah, you said Lizzie, right? I think I'm the right person. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So yes, I have TA'd several quarters also. We're on the quarter system, so we don't do semesters in case at your community college it's different. But yeah, so I've been here for 5 years at UC Davis, and I have never had to pay for tuition. That's not something that I owe later either. Like, it's covered. I never have to pay. And every month I get money to live off of for rent and food and bills and whatnot. So I've been a teaching assistant. I've also been paid as what is called a graduate student researcher. So basically the lab that I work in pays me off of grant money that they have. So for those quarters when I'm a graduate student researcher, I don't teach also. I've also been paid through fellowships through my department and through my graduate group, which are different, but basically there's like so many opportunities to get paid through the university itself, outside of the grant, outside of teaching. And then I've also been paid through work study, which I believe is federal. I know I have to apply for FAFSA for that. In some quarters I get it. So my funding situation has changed almost every quarter for 5 years, but I've never had to worry about not being paid and having to spend money on tuition.
Thank you, Lizzie. And Lizzie brought up the GSR, Graduate Student Researcher, and I'm trying to put on the chat the terms that we talked, so you can go back. If you miss one of the terms, just ask us. And there are already a couple questions. Thank you so much for asking. One of the questions is, are there flexible TA options for graduate students with disabilities or special obligation, like caregivings? Anyone is familiar with that? Everyone is comfortable answering that question? I will I will answer that question. Are there flexible TA options? I think so. So for example, in our program, what you do is submit an application, right, Emily? And then they will figure out, can you choose a class that you want to TA in?
So in our department particularly, the way that it works is you apply for a few different teriaships and you kind of rank your priority, and then they'll give you the one that matches best with their needs and with your needs. But just to kind of go with what Erica was going to say, so I have a variety of experience in TAing. One of my classes that I often TA is a virtual class. So it's a Zoom lecture. My only obligation is to send emails and to reset quizzes for students. So that is a really, really flexible TA-ship. But I also teach one, like I mentioned, a bring practical class where I'm in a lab with the students for 5 hours a day. So I think there's a huge variety in the TA-ships that are open to students. And you can TA in a different department than you work in. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind. But I noticed that there was a comment in the chat to just make sure that you ask this when you're applying to grad programs. And I really second that opinion.
Yeah. Anyone has anything to add regarding the flexibility that you have for teaching classes? Emily spoke regarding the food science department, but if anyone has other experiences, and panelists, you seem a little bit shy, just unmute yourself and jump in the conversation, please, so I don't have to call people out.
Oh, actually, I'd like to add to this point. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I feel the first TA is always very stressful. But once you have the TA experience, you know like what kind of job you will do. And also the good thing is there are lots of classes that offer every quarter. So the instructors like experienced TA, and so once you get the opportunity to do TA the first time, most likely. So if you apply for the job the second time, so you will get the position. And also because you held experience under the second quarter and later, it will be much easier.
Awesome, thank you. And there's another question that it says, what are usually the qualifications to become a TA? Anyone wants to answer that? Carlos?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was actually gonna answer that. I forgot what I was gonna say though. But I TA'd, I don't know, like 5 different classes by the time I finished. And when I mean different classes, some were in the exact same class, but with a different professor. There's certain ones that they have like a requirement of you need to get a B or in the class or equivalent at your institution. So like say you're coming from a different place and they didn't teach that exact same course, but it's a similar material, you've had to have like a B. They're not particularly rigorous in checking it all the time. But what ends up happening is once you TA that particular class once and you do a fairly good job, or you try to do a good job, because I know maybe your first time, or you may not be as familiar with the material in that institution. Then the second time, if you TA it again, you're getting better, and the professor begins to notice, hey, like this is a pretty good person. So there was a time when I had too many different classes that I was being asked to TA because I was doing a particularly good job, and so like I had to tell people like, no, I can't TA 3 classes, right? That's not possible. And that was just for that particular like quarter that there was just happened to overlap that way. But there is like a grade requirement. There is kind of like in your field of study, if you're like, say, like I'll use mechanical engineering because that's what I'm most familiar with, but if I'm studying like say thermal devices, I'm not going to be able to TA something like design of materials. So those are like very different classes. And that's because that's not my, like say, my area of focus. And so there is some overlap in what you can actually TA and what you can't. But that doesn't mean that you can't actually do that. In fact, people in mechanical engineering and other engineering sometimes also TA in physics and math, in different departments as well. So like it's not completely limiting, but it's not also completely, free range. There is some overlap in the type of classes that you may be able to TA.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. And if I can just add just a concrete answer, is there requirements? Usually if you apply to be a TA within your graduate program, you probably already passed most of the requirements that they will need you that you will need to TA a elementary class for your department. So for example, I'm in food science. If I come as a master's student or a PhD student, likely I already took most of the classes that undergrads have taken. So I'll be likely to get a position within my department. If you want to extend your options, so for example, I speak Spanish, but even if I want to TA Spanish, a lot of the times they do have some requirements. Like for example, I had to take, I don't know, Mexican literature. So it is very easy for you to get a TA within your department. And you don't need to be super prepared, at least not for the first one, because they understand that this is your first time doing it. Also, regarding the flexibility, I love that Lizzie mentioned that you can be a reader as well. So if you have obligations at home, if you have disabilities, or if you are a parent, you can do this TA appointments or reader appointments that are more flexible than TA positions. And I think what comes down to it, just try to communicate with the department and learn to figure out how you're going to choose your graduate program so that you know all of these things up front. So we have a lot of questions. Has anyone here worked on their PhD while working on their master's? So I think we can go ahead and explain how that I'm certain that none of us did that. And if someone wants to explain why we couldn't work on our PhD while we were working on our master's, maybe Marvel or Mika.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. I do not have my master's. I didn't go through that whole process. Instead, I did do a post-bac. So kind of going backwards into like before grad school, about the whole money, like, do you have to be rich to? No, I don't think so. But I think, at least for me, it did help that I didn't go straight into grad school after undergrad. I took 2 years and I worked full-time as in a research lab, and I got paid in that, and that kind of helped and all that. So that's where at least me specifically, I didn't feel the need for a master's degree to get into my PhD. So instead, I just got experience in the lab that way. But I do think some programs at some schools kind of offer where you can get a master's while you're getting your PhD. You just have to take a few more classes. I think Michigan does that. And you can, and in that way, you would get it like a little bit different. So like say if you're getting like your PhD in neuroscience, maybe a master's in like computational or like data analysis or something that like you were taking extra classes, but I don't know how common that is though.
Thank you.
I actually,
Very
I
discipline
actually got my
specific.
master's on my way to my PhD, both at UC Davis. And so when I started at Davis 5 years ago, my background wasn't in engineering, it was in geology. And so I had to take a lot of remedial classes to kind of get back up on that. And I had intended only to stay on for a master's to just be there for 2 years. But I really enjoyed the research that I was doing. And so after completing my master's, I secured additional funding to basically continue on for the next 3 years. And so if you are going to do that, it's important that both your master's and PhD are in separate areas of study. And so you can't basically, write a master's report and then just kind of continue on with that to turn it into a PhD. They have to be very kind of distinct subjects of study for you to focus on. But I like that because it felt like kind of a stepping stone to get along the way, providing me confidence that I could complete my PhD degree. I also felt like if I was already kind of going through the work to take all the coursework that you need to complete a PhD, why not get the master's along the way? So that was what I chose to do.
Thank you. And so we talk a lot about TA. So now Lizzie mentioned GSR or student researcher. Anyone wants to talk about like, what does that mean? Remember that some of our audience are community college students that, when I was at community college myself, I heard the word researcher or research, but I didn't really know what it meant. Like I would just picture someone with a lab coat and mixing test tubes. What do you guys usually do in your everyday life? What does a GSR or a graduate researcher do?
So for me, I'm a graduate student researcher, and that just allows me to work on my project. And I think sometimes you might have to work for a different lab, but in my case, I work on my own project, and so I do research towards my my PhD. So I mentioned I work on coronavirus evolution, so I do experiments that have to do with coronavirus evolution, and I get paid for that. And that is, I think like Lizzie mentioned, through a grant. And what a grant is a project that is funded by the federal or state government. And so that grant allows me to just work on my project and get paid for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Blake. And then thank you also for describing what a grant is. A lot of the participants might not know what a grant is. And so like Blake mentioned, a grant was either given to you or to your advisor. You write like an idea of what you want to do. And then it's like an application process, and then you submit it or your advisor submits it, and then people look at it and then they're like, oh my God, this is a great idea. Let's give them money. So your advisor or yourself will get money to actually do that project. So do the experiments, pay you, take you to conferences or buy the material. So can we talk about how many of you panelists did you have to apply for your own grant? Raise your hand if you apply for your own grant. Okay, so okay, so a lot of you guys. In my case, my advisor already had money for me, so I just came into a project. So out of those people who raised their hands, who's comfortable talking about how do you write a grant and who helped you? How do you even know how to write a grant?
I mean, like, because grants, they could be like really big, like for an entire research project that is multi-years, that is given to the like head of the lab, or you could write like a smaller grant that is for like a smaller organization. The way I was funded in grad school is through a fellowship, so graduate school fellowship, and there's several national fellowships for which anybody can apply to. It doesn't matter what school you're trying to go or you are already at. They're like basically there's several criteria, so you have to kind of read like you have to be like a U.S. citizen, because sometimes they have, because it comes from the government. So that is really nice because it gives you 3 years of funding, and it's separate from any money from the lab, from your supervisor, from your PI, from the head of the lab, like from who you would be working with. This is your own money. This was given to you. So with that, you have a lot of flexibility over where you take it. So I know people who have applied to these fellowships, and then if they're admitted to multiple programs, then they could take that money with wherever school they wanted to go. So it's like really a lot of freedom. And also because it's money that was given to you, you can just do what you came to do to grad school, like do your research. And I didn't have to be a teaching assistant. So that's the nice part, because then you could just dedicate your whole time to your project. But the problem, well, not the problem, but like these fellowships are really competitive, and there are not a lot of them. So that's why it's not like we can say everybody can be funded by like a fellowship, but it is very nice if you go.
Thank you. So Connie mentioned the outside fellowships that are out there for everyone. But for example, when you come here to UC Davis, or when you're applying to be a grad student at UC Davis, what part of the application asks you for, I believe, like a personal statement, etc. And they will use that personal statement to see if you will qualify for internal fellowships. Internal fellowships are just fellowships that are available for students who are actually coming into UC Davis. So I was lucky enough to get a fellowship that paid for my first 2 years. And it is very nice because you have a lot of freedom, like Connie says. And also it was a little bit, they pay me a little bit more than that my peers who did TA were getting. So I was getting a little bit of more money. And yes, they are competitive, but at the time that you come here, I think you will be ready and prepared to write a very good essay that will get you to be competitive. I think that in this time, while you are community college, once you go to a 4-year institution, I think you need to learn to figure out what your story is and figure out what's your value, because all of you guys are special in a way. And so when you are able to put that into words, people would look at your essays and say like, oh my God, this person is going to be so valuable for UC Davis. They bring diverse ideas. They came from community college, so they have experienced other things that a person who came here as a freshman and started haven't experienced. So I think that yes, they are competitive, but a lot of us here got a fellowship or another sort of funding opportunity. So don't be scared to apply for things, whether it's now or in the future. And I know Maribel has also gotten external fellowships. So Maribel, do you want to tell us a little bit more about those fellowships?
Yeah, I want to kind of jump off what you and Connie have talked about already and like emphasize 2 extra points. So what I have is the NSF GRFP, which is the National Science Foundation Fellowship. And so that funds me for 3 years. And the really cool thing is that I actually got it before I started grad school. So for a fellowship like this, I don't know about other ones. I think this is the only one you can apply before grad school. But if you guys transfer, get into a lab wherever you're at and do research, like you can apply to this before you get into grad school and go into grad school with this already in your pocket. And that makes you, one, so much more competitive for all these programs, but then also just so much more attractive, or you have so much more freedom for picking the lab you want to work in. But the thing is too, like I want to emphasize that you can apply before grad school, because like I applied twice. It took me 2 times. Like I didn't get it the first time, I applied again. And so that's what I'm saying. Like if you just apply every year, you work on learning how to communicate your science and also communicate your story. That is like, then say you don't get them before grad school, but then you start grad school and then you apply again as a grad student. And now you're just like your essays are so much more fleshed out. And so, yeah, what are fellowships? So fellowships is kind of like what we're like, they're similar to grants, but they're like funding you as a student. So they're given to you. You have this money, they pay for your tuition and they pay your stipend. And so if anyone else wants to kind of give more detail on that, but we kind of touched on it where there's like external and internal. So there's various different ones. But the next kind of big point I want to emphasize is it takes a community, I think, to like write these big fellowships. Like I didn't write this by myself. I wrote it and then I sent it to people to edit. They sent it back. I now edit other people's. Like it take like, so you're even in grad school, like you're never going to go through a lot of processes by yourself. Like that's what your mentors for, that's what your peers are for. And there's also so many more opportunities that like outside kind of opportunities that are there to help you with the writing process. Yeah, just organizing your thoughts. And I think that's like, those are the 2 main points. So as soon as you feel ready to apply, you have research experience, you can communicate your story, I would apply. And then also just know that it takes community. It's not all on you.
Thank you, Maribel. And I just want to second the fact that it takes a village. It takes a community, to a network that is going to help you get to where you want to be, whether it's grad school or whatever you decide to do after your community college and your 4-year. Networks are very important. And okay, last question about funding so that we can jump into our opportunities. So Jessica asks, is there something particular that you think helped you get your fellowship? And maybe we can ask Maribel, is there anything you think that made you more competitive?
For me, I think I just I had a great mentor. I had a great mentor who was, you know, that helped a lot, because I feel like the first year I applied, I didn't have that great of a mentor. And then also I think the project, how I communicated my science, and I also did a lot of outreach. And so the NSF, and a lot of these fellowships are also want to give money to people who are going above and beyond than just the research and doing stuff to increase diversity and equity in the sciences. So I talked about that, and I talked about kind of my work in that area.
Yes. So if you already have, if you're already doing something, you need to figure out how you're going to differentiate yourself from the other 2,000 people who are going to apply perhaps for the same fellowship. What makes you, what makes you different? What is your journey? How well you can communicate your science and your ideas. But yeah, what else besides your grades are there? Because you are more than grades. And so figuring out how to develop your leadership skills and your networking skills very early is very important for your success as not only as an academic, but as a person and as, you know, a future adult, I'll say. All right, so I think we talk a lot of financial opportunities, and I think what I just want to say as a conclusion, you do not need to have prior savings. Of course, that will help, but you can get paid to go to grad school. You don't need to be rich. There will be different opportunities for you to be able to have those resources, not only to pay your schooling, but to pay for your housing, for your food. There are different programs. If you have a disability, if you're a parent, there will be resources for you to complete and go to graduate school. So don't get discouraged. Money should not be something that it's going to stop you. So now we're going to go to the second part, and we're going to talk about opportunities. So I know that there are some of us who do other things. So yes, we are researchers, we do teaching, but what were the things, while we were talking about extracurricular activities, right? What extracurricular activities or professional opportunities do we have in graduate school? And Emily, do you want to start talking about I know you have done a lot of entrepreneurship academies. You want to create your own business. You know, how grad school has helped you, you know, envision this future for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think just being at a university at large, there's a lot of opportunities for different kinds of programs. So I would say even if you're in community college right now or in undergrad school, you can still look for the resources that I'm going to mention. But I was able to take advantage of them more so in grad school just because of the timing of everything. So I have participated in a variety of entrepreneurship academies, like Erica mentioned. So there's one specifically through UC Davis. It's like a week-long activity, and it's really intensive, but it's really excellent resource if you're interested in building out a business. And then there's some external resources, so you can apply for some different fellowships throughout the US, and these can be like virtual programs. So I've participated in one called Future Founders. I can put the link in there later. But that one's really great because they focus both on young entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs. So they'll host a group that's like 18 to 30-year-olds, which has been a really great opportunity. And I think that just reaching out of research and doing things that are beyond just the bench has grown my knowledge base and my skill set way far beyond just the science. And I think that's a really important skill to be able to develop during this time, because it's really pivotal for our growing. So
thank you, Emily. And I know Connie has also been done some extracurricular activities. And please, if any of our panelists had done something else, this is the moment for you to shine. Connie, go ahead.
Yeah, so like grad school was really, really fun. Like apart from doing the research, I got to do like a lot of things. Like for my research, I traveled to Kenya because that's where the hyenas are. So I got to do some field work in Kenya, which was awesome. I got to travel to a lot of different states in like the United States to present my work to like other researchers. It's an important like professional skill that you develop in grad school and that like looks well on your resume and things like that. I also like not a lot of people did this, but I took my money, my fellowship money, because it was given to me, and I did like a semester abroad kind of thing. So I went to Mexico City to work with a professor at the university there who like knew some things that I didn't, that I wanted to learn from her. So I spoke to my my mentor in Michigan, and I was like, hey, like I want to go like 3 or 4 months to Mexico City to like learn this one particular skill that I like haven't been learned here, because obviously like your mentor doesn't know everything. So like this is why you have to seek like grow your net of mentors. So and she was like, yeah, like you go like take your money. So then I basically just like moved to Mexico City for 4 months, and that was really, really fun. And awesome. Then so.
Thank you. So as you heard from our panelists, you can become a business person, and like now that you're here and doing research, you can, you know, create and develop something super cool and make a business out of it. You can go learn something from other people in different countries. You can go see the hyenas, right? Like because that was part of her research, but those are really cool things that probably Connie didn't even picture she could when she was an undergrad, right? For example, I created this program, the Mano program, because I am part of this fellowship or this program that is called Professors for the Future. I knew I wanted to be a professor, and I want to give back to my community. I am a product of community college, and so I'm very passionate about trying to pull more people from similar backgrounds into grad school, because we need you all. So this program gave me the opportunity to actually pull some resources and connections and give me some time to actually focus on this project that I had in mind. So the Mano program came out as the product of one of the opportunities, professional opportunities that I had in grad school. Without that, this program would not be possible. Anyone else? Reno, Lizzie, anyone else wants to speak about their extracurricular activities?
So I'd like to chime in that I also I'm a grad student representative in the Grad Student Association, specifically sitting on undergraduate program and course review committee. So one of my responsibilities is to make sure that all the professors are doing their job and give an effective teaching to the education quality that undergrads deserves. So that's one of the extracurriculum that you can do as a grad student.
Awesome. And Lizzie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, so I thought I'd mention my experience with a program similar to the one that Eric is doing. It's called Leaders for the Future, and it's actually, so I did it last year. It was a year-long program, and it was all about career exploration, which is interesting because a lot of the time you come to graduate school and maybe you think you're going to be a professor, like that. That's kind of like the linear path that a lot of people think that that you're going to take when you come to grad school, but there's so much that you could do with a master's or a PhD. And that's what this program really taught me. So I'd like to share a piece of advice that I learned from this program, because it was like the most valuable piece of advice that I've gotten. And it's something that all of you can do now, is to reach out to people that have jobs that you think you might be interested in. Just email them. You don't have to know them. Email them and ask for what's called an informational interview, which is just where you want to hear like their experience in the job, how they got it, and if they have any advice for you. And this is a great way to learn about potential career paths. And it's also a great opportunity to build relationships or network with people, because people are nice and they like to talk about themselves. And they'll often like connect you with other people that have similar jobs, or they'll give you advice for getting to the job that they have. So it's just a really, really great thing to do. And I mean, by being here, you're kind of doing that right now. Like, you're talking to grad students and you might want to be a grad student. So I guess keep doing things like this, because it's amazing and you learn of different career paths that you never would have like anticipated.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, I was just gonna say one thing. I applaud you, Reno, for getting involved in the GSA. One of the things that I just want to bring up to the undergrad students is that grad school is not perfect. Academia is not perfect. And Reno's part of what is the governing body of grad students. So think of it like your political arm in the university. And so like, if you ask yourself like, oh, well, there's all these great things about grad school. Why is everyone not doing it? Well, there's obviously barriers, and we're trying to break one of them down through this panel. The other piece is, as a grad student, I was the president of the GSA, and so I would talk, and the GSA again is like the political body, not by choice, but by a default. I didn't go into that position because I wanted to, but it just kind of fell upon me. But you learn what a chancellor does, what a vice provost does. How do you make change in the institution that you're in, the administrative level? And I learned a tremendous amount of a lot of pieces from that. Mainly for the grad students that are here, the student progress assessment wasn't a thing until we pushed the administration to do that. So for you graduate students that say, well, why do we have to do this? And it's like, well, there's changes that you can make on a political basis by being involved with administration. And it does take time, but it's extremely rewarding, especially for the younger grad students at Davis that may now look at the student progress assessment and be like, well, this is a waste of time. And of course, there's changes that can happen. But if they didn't exist in the past, or resources like Professors for the Future, which was a student pushed program in the past All of these things need to come from you all, and the students here represent the future. So just to make sure that while you're around, try to leave the place in better shape by being involved in any one of these programs. Because it's certainly rewarding for yourself, but also for people coming down the line.
Awesome, Carlos. I really love what you said, you know, when you leave a place, try to leave it better than how you found it. I think that applies for if you're in community college. There are things that you can do to make it better. There are things that you can do to make sure your peers are succeeding. You know, you always speak up if you see something that is not just. And that's how we change the world. So I really want to encourage you to just keep pushing barriers and keep, you know, and if you can, don't jump on alone. Bring someone along with you because it takes a village. So I think in the last 10 minutes or so, first I want to ask Emily if she's ready to announce who's the winner. Yeah, out of the students, we do a small raffle. So Emily, do you want to announce who the winner is?
Yeah, so I went ahead and put all of the attendees' names in a random generator, and we have Samantha as our winner today.
Yay, Samantha. So Samantha, you won the gift card. Thank you so much for being here. If you please email me so that I can well, I know that you're the winner, but so figure out the logistics on how I can give you your gift card. And I think before we go, I want to open up the microphone. I want to give the microphone to the students. If figure out if they have any questions that we didn't answer, feel free to put them in the chat or just unmute yourself. And if there are no questions, I think I want to go ahead and ask all the panelists if you could give an advice to your younger self, whether when you were in community college or undergrad, what advice would you give yourself to get to the position you are today? Go ahead, Lizzie.
I think I'm gonna have to take a minute to think of this one. I'm not sure. Come back to me.
Or easier, how can our students get ready to go to grad school now? What can they do now that is going to prepare them for a successful academic life as a grad student? And you, okay, Maribel unmuted herself. I see her.
I was just gonna say, so what you guys could do now would be to just do some Google searches of summer research programs that are, there are so many, and most, I know UCs, but if you're willing to go out of state, there's so many out there. And so I would get that, probably just the summer before you transfer, and then, yeah.
And then
Yeah,
sorry, Blake, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just kind of reiterate looking for research opportunities. I don't know if there's research opportunities at the community college you're at. There very well might be. And if when you transfer to a four-year university, I would be on the lookout for research opportunities. Just as soon as possible, be really proactive about that. Reach out to professors. There's a couple programs you can research what programs are available at the university. At my university, I think there was something called the MARC program, which was for underrepresented minorities. And yeah, also summer research programs are great. And another thing that helped me, because of my, I didn't have that much research I didn't have that much research that I did in undergrad, was doing what's called a postbac. This was called PrEP. It's funded by the NIH, and it's research you can do for a year, sometimes 2 years at a university, and that's funded for underrepresented minorities that have a bit that need more research experience specifically. And I think there's other post-bac programs as well. The NIH has one where you can work at the NIH itself. But yeah, I would just research and reach out to people. Just look for research opportunities. But
Thank you. Go ahead, Rena.
I would say don't be afraid to cold email people, professors, for the stuff that you're interested in. And then be persistent, and then don't be discouraged if they don't reply you back. When I first transferred to UC Davis, I had to email 30 different professors, and then I only got one response, and that one response got to me where I am today. So be persistent.
Anyone else? Emily, Lizzie, Shu.
I would piggyback off of Marino's comment and just say, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that in my personal situation, I was a little bit intimidated by grad school as a whole. And because of that, I was afraid of asking questions. But the more that I had conversations, the more that I understood that people are willing to help. So that's what we're all here for. And please make that an opportunity for yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say a similar thing to Reno also, just reach out to professors. So like, you could kind of think of it like you have a school in mind of where you might want to go, where you'd want to be for the next 5 years if you're doing 5 to 6 years if you're doing a PhD, and you can look at a list of faculty and you could click on each of their faculty profiles and learn what they're doing. And then from there, if there's something that you're really interested in, just email them and start, talking to them if you get the response. And I was also in a similar position where like a lot of people don't respond, and that happens, and don't take it personally, just keep emailing. And on a slightly related note, I also just want to mention, so I've been on the admission committee for my grad group, and for my program, at least, it is, and this is public information, but it's actually a strength if a student has attended community college. So kind of like what Emily was saying, don't be intimidated about going to graduate school. Like, you're in a really great position by going to community college.
And let me just say something real quick. I put a website called Pathways to Science. I know a lot of community college has very limited opportunities for research, but this website right here, they probably have over 1,000 different paid summer internships. That's how I got my first research experience. So, save this link because it's going to be very helpful if you want to get some research experience. Also, I love Maribel's message that says, also don't get your grades stop you. She was discouraged early on because of her grades, but here she is, and she had her own fellowship, so do not get discouraged. Any other thoughts? So I think for me, what I want to leave you guys with is, don't worry about money. You will find a way to get to grad school and get funding opportunities. If you really want to go to grad school, there will be a way for you to pay for grad school and receive a stipend, especially if you come from community college and you bring in a new perspective to a college. They want you. And I think that's something that I want you to know, is that you are very valuable. And during this community college and four-year institution, find your worth. And I know a lot of the times it's very hard to talk about ourselves and like, why would I be special, right? Like, but if your whole story makes you special, the struggles that you face and you're passionate about, whatever you're passionate about, whether it's dancing, whether it's science, whether it's like animals, insects, whatever, that makes you unique. And your story makes you a very valuable individual. So don't be afraid and learn your value so that when you're writing either to transfer to a 4-year institution or come to grad school, you have a story and make yourself known that you're going to bring so much value to a graduate program or to a job if you decide to go into the job, because there's nothing wrong with finishing your bachelor's and go to a job. None of us did that. I mean, maybe we went there, but then came back. But there's nothing wrong with just having a job where you feel that you are making an impact. What I just don't want you to do is to think that that is the only option, because it's not. So we don't have more questions. If there is a panelist with a burning, thought that want to share, this is the moment to do so. But other than that, I just want to thank you to all the students for being here. This is going to be recorded, so if you want to see it again, it will be on the website. If you want to share it with your peers, feel free to do so. The recording will be there, and so you can share the link. And thank you so much to our panelists. I really appreciate all your perspectives. Like Carlos said, we're trying to make a difference, and I think the views that you share will make an impact to students who watch this video. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful long weekend. Thank you all. Samantha, please email me so that you can get your prize, and congratulations. Bye, you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.